Welcome to this yin yoga practice for our lower legs. If you run, then you know that your lower legs get pretty darn tight. I know mine are very tight. I often do practices that are important to me, and I've been doing a lot of work with my calves lately. Our lower legs, everything is connected just like the old song goes. The feet are connected to the ankles, ankles connect to the calves, calves connect to the knees, and so on and so forth. Anyway, so I created this practice kind of for myself, and I wanted to share it with you. And even if you're not a runner, chances are that your calves get pretty tight too. So for this practice, you're going to need a few props. A strap is really nice, resistance band, that's what I've got today. Can be helpful. I really recommend a couple of blocks as well, and I'm going to put them toward the top of my mat, so hopefully I won't forget them. No promises there. And a pillow or a bolster can also feel pretty nice, as well as a blanket. And guess what? Yes, guess what? As I'm going through my props, I had totally forgotten about grabbing my blanket first, so a blanket can be very useful for this practice. And I'm going to put the strap with the blocks, and I'm going to put the blanket and the bolster off to the side because we're not using those for a while, and come to face the short end of your mat. Take your heels underneath your glutes. I'm having a little toe cramp here. That's not a good start. Take your heels onto your glutes and then begin to come down until your forehead's near the mat, on the mat. If it's uncomfortable to have your legs close together like this, you can take them as wide as the mat, whatever you need to do. And I'd like you to try and take your arms behind you into reverse prayer position. A little awkward to get into, but I really want to get our shoulders open too for some of our later moves. And we're just going to begin to breathe through our nose, trying to match our inhales and our exhales, trying to get the palms of those hands together. If you can't get into that position, don't worry about it. You can also just take your elbows. That will work too. So then just begin to breathe through your nose, trying to slow your breath down. When we're in child pose, we're compressing our stomach, so it becomes a little harder to breathe, but that's okay. It's also a very, very calming position, and that's why I like to start with it. So we can just leave the day so far behind us and literally come to our mat. And you should already be feeling a little bit something in your calves. This practice is going to aim at the lower legs, at your hamstrings, at your feet, your ankles, but most especially at your calves. Bring your hands down to the mat. Slowly bring yourself up so that you're sitting upright. Just take a couple of deep breaths now that your diaphragm isn't being compressed. And then bring your legs out to the side. Straight out in front of you. Go ahead and grab that strap or resistance band if you have it. And slowly begin to come on down to your back. We're never rushing, especially in our transitions. And stretch your legs down straight on the mat. Bend your left knee into your chest. Take your strap or band, place it around the ball of your foot, and then just begin to straighten your leg. Foot is really flexed. You'll notice if you play around with that position, the more you flex that foot, the more you're getting into the calf. If you don't want to get into the calf as much, you can let it soften a little bit. That will probably get you more into your hamstrings. Either is fine. For myself, Those calves really need some stretching. Never getting into the deepest part of your pose right away. Letting time and gravity begin to do the work for you. As you breathe in, feeling your shoulder blades begin to come apart. As you breathe out, feel them coming back together. You're not yanking your leg towards your face, just trying to let it soften, coming towards your chest, towards your body, as you let go. Go ahead and bend that left leg, move the strap, stretch it out, and just pause and notice. Maybe the leg you just stretched actually seems a little longer than the other leg. Maybe not. Just notice what's happening. And then begin to bend your right leg in and your strap around the ball of your foot, flexing that foot if you want to get into the calf like me. And if it's too hard for you to have your leg stretched out along the mat, go ahead and just bend it, and that will make it just a little bit easier. I'm sorry I didn't tell you that on the other side. I never realized until I became a yoga teacher how much there is to tell our students. Continue to take deep breaths in and out through your nose. Trying not to tighten that calf muscle. And just be. Sending that lower leg some love. Maybe flexing the foot just a little bit more. While at the same time trying to relax the muscle. It's a tricky balance. Last breath. Bend that knee in towards your chest. Put your strap over to the side. You're not going to need that again. Just roll over to one side. Slowly pushing yourself up and coming into a tabletop position. Tuck your toes underneath and reach back and pull them forward. We're trying to get those ankles as straight as we can. And then slowly walk your hands towards your knees. I like to hang out in this position, making sure that my ankles aren't splaying apart, which normally they are, just like they are right now. So bringing them back up as straight as I can. And I just like to hang out in here for a few breaths. Toe squat is not an easy position for me. If you're a runner, it's really, really beneficial. We're not going to be here super long. If you'd like to go a little deeper, begin to take your hands on top of your knees, bringing your back up straight, walking those hands up. Imagine you have rosebuds on each foot, and they're tightly closed. And see if you can think about softening them as they open up and bloom. Notice your breath. Notice if it's getting very short. A couple more breaths here. Maybe straighten up a little bit more. And then come back to your hands and just pause there right now. And take a few more deep breaths. And walk back into our tabletop position. Take the tops of your feet onto your mat. And then push back so that your glutes are once again on top of your heels. This time we're going to do a counter stretch for our ankles. You can get into it with your hands behind you, like this. Make it a little harder, you can have your hands on your legs, and if that's the case, that's what I've been working with lately. It's not easy for me, my knees barely get off the mat, but you just begin to lean back, trying to keep your back really straight. And once again, this is a very difficult stretch for most people, so we don't stay here too long. Relax your shoulders if you're in the more advanced position, even if you're not. Trying to make your back as straight as you can. Last breath here. And then slowly come back down. Once again, into a down dog position, into a tabletop position, curling our toes back under. And you guessed it, we're coming into down dog. So press your glutes up towards the sky. Your head comes between your arms, ears trying to line up with the biceps. You may need to adjust your hands or your feet. Your feet are usually easier to adjust. And then bend your right knee, then your left. It doesn't really matter which one you start with. I'm just bending one knee, straightening out the other leg. It's a really, really nice calf stretch. And we're going to do this for a few more rounds. I could really do this all day. It feels good to me. And then as we come to stillness, take one foot, your left foot, and put it on your right ankle and just kind of try and stretch your Achilles down a little bit, the back of your ankle. Just breathe into that. If your feet don't come all the way onto the floor, don't worry about it. You're still going to get a good stretch. And this is going to stretch into your calves and into your hamstrings. It's a good all body stretch. Let that go. Take your right foot and bring it to the back of your left ankle. And try and press down. Couple breaths here. Last breath. Let that go. And then just press back into a normal down dog. Maybe your heels come a little closer to your mat now. Maybe they don't. Getting your heels on the mat is not the purpose of the pose. Stretching out your whole body, getting some strength into your arms, some strength into your legs. That's the purpose of down dog. That's one of the purposes. There are other purposes. Last breath. And bend your knees. Come back down into tabletop position. Take your legs out to one side. For our next pose, you're going to need those blocks if you have them. If you don't, that's fine. You only need one at a time. Take your right foot, put it on top of the block, or both works too if you have it. And take your left leg, crossing it over, and flexing that foot. Once again, if you flex that foot, it's going to protect the knee a little bit. You're going to get into the calf a little bit, and you're definitely getting into your hips here as well. And if you want to make it a little more difficult, walk your arms closer to your glutes. Trying to get your chest as close to your leg as you're able to. This is seated swan, and it's really a great alternative to pigeon. Some of you may be familiar with pigeon. Great pose for runners, but if done incorrectly, not at all great, and it can really torque your knees. This is a much safer pose. And it's going to give you a lot of the same benefits. It really is. Don't be afraid to modify poses. Don't be afraid to use props. Last breath. Slowly begin to lean back a little bit. Take your top leg off and then take your foot off the block. If you don't have blocks, of course you can have your foot on the mat as well. And place that block off to the side. And we are going to take our legs back out to the side, come back into tabletop, and we're going to stretch out our right leg. And if you want, you can actually use the blocks here and prop yourself up a little bit. Makes it just a little bit easier. You can have them on the lower side, or you can just go ahead and have your hands on the mat. Now, if you want to get into your calves, like I am, then you're going to need to bring your toes back towards your face. And once again, it's tricky. This is kind of a yin-yang thing. So we want to relax that calf muscle, and at the same time, we want to stretch it. By flexing that foot, we're going to get more into the calf muscle, but we don't want to squeeze it. So it's a tricky balance. And if you let your foot point more than you flex it, you may feel this more in your hamstring. Your hamstring is going to get a good stretch either way. And it really kind of depends on what you feel you need the most. For me right now, the calves really need a little love. Couple more breaths. Last one. And let that foot go. And slowly begin to drag it back towards your body. Moving really slowly through transitions. Put your legs back out to the side. And we're going to go to second side for both seated swan and half monkey. So either foot on the mat or left foot on your block. I find I get more into my calf if I have my foot raised. Cross your other leg over your right thigh. Flex over your left thigh. Flex your right foot. And make sure that your crossed leg is not on the knee. We don't want it right up here on the knee joint. We want it off the knee, hanging off the leg. It protects your knee joint. And if you need a little bit more oomph to this stretch, just walk your hands closer to your body, trying to get your chest close to your body, making your spine as long as you can. And just breathe. Enjoy the opening in your hip while working a little bit on your calf as well. Couple more breaths. And relax your shoulders. I notice mine are really tensing. Last breath. And slowly begin to lean back a little bit. Uncross your top leg. Take your left foot off of the block. Mostly done with the blocks. Unless you have very, very tight hips, you might want them in a couple of moves. So you can just put them off to the side. For our next pose, we're going to use that blanket. So you can have it folded, a couple of times, and then roll it up a little bit. The smaller the roll, the tighter it's going to feel. You'll see in a minute. Just put it out in front of you for now. Come to another tabletop position. Have your feet, tops of the feet on the mat. Take that rolled up blanket, put it kind of in the middle of your calf, so you're getting right into the meat of your calf. And then begin to bring your glutes back down to your ankles. Now you're going to notice two things here. It's actually a little easier. Having that rolled up blanket is always a great move. It's a little easier pose. Some people have a great deal of difficulty in this pose. But at the same time, it's giving your calves a little love. So let's spend a couple of breaths here. Just really sinking down, a nice straight spine, which allows us to breathe very, very deeply. Chin is a little tucked. You're probably feeling a little bit of sensation in those calves now, and you're probably feeling it a little bit in your quads, a little bit in your hamstrings as well. And now, because I'd like to open up your shoulders a little bit more, if possible, take your hands behind you. You can hold onto elbows, and we're trying to open up those shoulders. If you can do a reverse prayer arms, go ahead and bring the palms of your hands to meet in the middle of your back. Not only will this, having your arms in prayer pose, reverse prayer pose, help you to open up your chest, it's really good for your posture. It helps to get rid of some of that computer rounding from looking at our phones and our tablets and our computers all day long. And notice if you have your arms behind your back, whether it's holding onto your elbows or in reverse prayer, notice your breathing. We're opening up the chest a little bit. Do you find it's easier to take nice deep breaths? You should, hopefully. Last couple of breaths. Last breath. Go ahead and sit up. Take that blanket out. Put it aside. You may or may not need it one more time. Take your legs out towards the side. Bring them up. The soles of your feet together. You may want to, if you have tight hips, you may want to grab your blocks. Soles of your feet together. And play around a little bit with the position of your feet. They can be pretty far out from you, and you might feel that more in your calves, and this is really the focus of this practice. But if you don't want it to be the focus of the practice, you can bring them a lot closer. And if you find that your knees are up like this, you can take those blocks and just put them underneath your knees. Give your knees something to relax onto. I'm going to take my feet out a little bit more in front of me because I'm trying to stretch out that calves a little bit more. And I also want you to reach down into your feet. Reach down to the part that's on the mat and just begin to massage a little bit. Our feet do not get enough love, and we work them really, really hard. So just either press, do little circles, whatever feels right for you, starting with the side of your foot, which is on the mat. And if this is a difficult position for you, massaging your feet might take your mind off of the difficulty. Now bring your fingers into the center of your foot. And you can just press, you can do circles. It should feel very, very nice. And now we're going the big toe mound. So we're not quite on the outside of the feet, but we're on that outer edge. So you're getting a nice massage all the way through all of your feet. Go ahead, one last time. And now I want you to take your thumb and your forefinger, your index finger, and just rub a little bit on your Achilles tendon. I'll just go ahead and go like this so you can see what I'm doing. Just draw it down a little bit. Give that a little love. You can also circle a little bit. We don't want to go right here, right on top of the tendon. That's not going to feel good. But if you're off to the sides, that should feel good. And just relax that Achilles a little bit. Let's take second side. You can go ahead. This is another nice hip stretch. It's a square. One leg is on top of the other leg. And if this is too hard for you, you can also just have one leg straight and have the top leg bent over your thigh of the opposite leg. And again, just draw up a little bit to the side of your Achilles tendons, and then little circles. And that should feel very nice. Okay, giving our feet some love, I'm going to move my blocks out of the way. Take the soles of your feet to your mat and slowly begin to come down to your elbows and slowly coming all the way down onto your back, and walk your feet in as close to your glutes as you can get. I find I usually can't get too close to them until our first bridge. You see right now my fingers are pretty far away from those heels. And that's okay. Your fingers may never reach your heels. Inhale, exhale, begin to tip your pelvis up towards the ceiling. Slowly beginning to take your back off the floor, one vertebrae at a time. Please don't look at me while you're doing bridge. It's very hard on your neck. We don't want you to hurt your neck. And we're trying to come up without squeezing the glutes. And then as you exhale, slowly coming down. It should once again feel really nice on your spine. Inhale, exhale, begin to tip that pelvis up, bringing it off the floor. And as you come up, you can try coming up onto your toes, moving your feet a little closer. You can see I can reach my ankles now. Tucking the chin a little bit, and then exhale, slowly coming on down, giving your back a little massage. We're going to do about 3 more. You do it on your own time. Inhale up, exhale down, couple more. Inhale, peeling your back up off the mat. Maybe you come a little higher as your back gets warmer. Exhale, melting back down into the mat. Last time. Inhale, really slowly. You can't really come vertebrae by vertebrae, as we yoga instructors like to say. They're all connected. But you can think about trying to do that. And just as slowly come on down. And I'd like you to roll over to the side. Slowly press yourself up. I need to demo our last move. There's a couple of different options. First option, it's not our last move actually, it's our next to last move. First option is laying on your back and simply taking your feet up towards the sky. If you want to get into your calves, feet can be flexed. And this is the easiest option. Next option Wiggle yourself over to the wall so that your hip is all the way over, and then go ahead and swing your arms, your legs, up onto the wall. And again, the more you flex your feet, the more you feel it in your calves. And this last option is a relatively advanced move, so I want you to feel very careful about this. We're going to go into what's known as plow or snail and yin, and we're going to be taking our legs over our head, coming into a shoulder stand. If you have high or low blood pressure, if you have eye problems, if you're pregnant, maybe if you're on your period, I do not suggest doing this pose, especially if you're pregnant, if you have high and low blood pressure, or if you have eye problems. Your period, it's really kind of up to you. And I'm going to demo it once because I don't want you turning your head while you're in this position. Very, very bad for your neck. Okay. So you're going to come onto your back, soles of your feet are on the floor, and you're really going to be using your arms and take your feet up towards the sky, really pulling in your abs. You're taking your legs over your head, and you'll notice that, my voice is a little strained here. It really presses on your diaphragm, so it can be a little challenged to breathe. And you want to take the weight on your arms, not so much on your neck. And then bend your legs and begin to straighten them towards the sky for shoulder stand. And begin to take them so that you feel like you're not actually straight. But we have a tendency to be too far forward or too much this way. And we're trying to be pretty straight from our legs all the way down through our hips without crunching our neck. Come out of it, you can bend your knees back in towards your face. Come back into snail, your arms along the ground, and then really, really slowly begin to roll down. I know, it sounds like I'm really straining. I actually like shoulder stand a lot. And the last little trick for shoulder stand, which is what I'm going to be doing, is take that blanket and fold your mat over it. This is going to give you a base for your arms, and it will also raise you a little bit. It's going to make it just a little bit easier. Okay, so yogi's choice. Remember, you can just have your legs up with your back on the mat. You can do legs up the wall, so you squinch over to the wall and swing your hips up so your legs are going literally up the wall. Or you can join me in trying shoulder stand, which I love, but it's not exactly the easiest pose in the world. And if you want to do shoulder stand, bring your feet towards your glutes like you would for bridge. Your arms are straight down along the mat. They're resting on the blanket. Feet come straight up towards the sky, and really kind of pushing with your hands. Raise your hips up and slowly let them lower over your head. Take your hands to the small of your back. Bring your feet together, slowly beginning to raise your legs, trying to take the weight on your arms, not on your neck. Chin is slightly tucked, and really trying to get straight. You can see right now, I'm not straight. My legs are too far forward, although it feels straight to me. So I'm going to readjust here. Whichever position you're in, if you're in shoulder stand, bring your leg back down towards your mat or the ground. And really, really slowly begin to bring your butt back towards the earth. And be very, very careful with that, please. This is not something you have to do. Lights up the wall is a great, great pose, and I do it almost every time I run. In the evening, I do it almost every time. And we're going to go into a short Savasana, corpse pose. If you have that pillow or bolster, go ahead and today, for today's practice, go ahead and put your ankles on top of it. And slowly come on down to your back. And let your ankles fall open. And we're just going to stay here for a little bit of time. Just letting all those muscles that we've worked, that we've stretched, relax. Relax your shoulders. Notice your breath. Notice if it's still very labored. If you attempted shoulder stand, and if you did, I really hope that you're not a beginner. It's a difficult pose. It's not for beginners. But if you did, you might find that your breath is a little labored. Snail and plow, shoulder stand, it all compresses the diaphragm a little bit. Makes breathing a little hard to do. But it also is wonderful to relax your whole leg. And then just begin to notice how you feel. If you feel any difference from when we started to now. And I also want you to pay attention, how do you feel tomorrow? We do all these things to help ourselves recover, to make ourselves stronger, to make ourselves more flexible. And we think that we should get up off the mat and, oh my God, we can do a split. But it takes time. And we have to notice. Notice the changes that this practice brings. Take a few more deep breaths here. Begin to wiggle your toes and your fingers. Maybe circling your wrists and your ankles. Going the other way. Nice big stretch. Arms overhead. Legs stretching towards the wall. Bring one knee into your chest and the other. And slowly begin to come on over towards your right side. Head is cradled on your arm. Take a few breaths here. And notice how you feel. Taking your time with these transitions will help you bring the changes into your body rather than just popping up and rushing off to check the next thing off on your to-do list. And hopefully your eyes are still closed. Bring one hand to the mat. Begin to slowly push yourself up into an easy seated position. Eyes are still closed, if that's comfortable. Palms of the hand come together at your heart. Go ahead and rub those hands together, creating a little heat, bringing awareness back into your day. And then go ahead and cup your hands over your eyes. Take a couple of deep breaths here. And slowly begin to blink your eyes open, taking your palms down to your knees. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope that your calves really feel the love. And I hope that your next workout, your next run, your next walk feels a little bit more fluid. Just notice, see what happens. Sending your calves so much love, all your lower leg. Thank you for joining me. If you loved this video, please click the like button. And if you want to be notified when new videos are added to this channel, please go ahead and click the subscribe button. Thank you for joining me. Namaste.